For the first time in 2 years, Vladimir Putin has sat down to talk to a Western journalist about Russia's grinding war in Ukraine. A war that has flattened cities like Mariupol and Bakhmut, killed and injured 500,000 people and forced more than 10 million to flee their homes. And who did he choose as his interrogator? Former Fox News host and Russia apologist Tucker Carlson, causing uproar in the US and some vicious memes on social media. This was great publicity for Carlson, who put out a video to his 12 million followers on X from the roof of the Ritz-Carlton overlooking the Kremlin, which Russian security services never normally allow, to say why he was doing the interview.
First, because it's our job. We're in journalism. Our duty is to inform people.
The war in Ukraine, said Carlson, was reshaping the world, economically and politically. Yet most Americans were ignorant of that fact.
Because no one has told them the truth. Their media outlets are corrupt. They lie to their readers and viewers.
All the US media did, said Carlson, was run PR for President Zelensky to get Americans to pay for the war, with no one interested in hearing the Russian side.
Not a single Western journalist has bothered to interview the president of the other country involved in this conflict, Vladimir Putin.
So, is that true? Well, no.
That's a lie. Serious news outlets, including CNN, have requested Putin to interview over and over again.
And even the Kremlin was moved to say he was wrong. So, why did Putin say yes to Carlson? Simple, because the sacked Fox News host is a Putin cheerleader and a fan.
He's what's called a useful idiot. He says things that are not true. He parrots Vladimir Putin's pack of lies about Ukraine. So I don't see why Putin wouldn't give him an interview.
Carlson has suggested in the past that Americans should support Putin's war and we shouldn't hate the Russian leader.
Has Putin ever called me a racist? Has he threatened to get me fired for disagreeing with him? Has he shipped every middle-class job in my town to Russia? Did he manufacture a worldwide pandemic that wrecked my business?
And there's no doubt the Kremlin loves Tucker, with a leaked memo in 2022 instructing the Russian media to use Carlson as much as possible. And Putin's iron doll, Olga Skabieva, calling it sad news on Russian state TV when he was sacked in 2023.
Телеканал Fox News разорвал контракт с одним из самых известных ведущих каналов в истории нашего с вами любимчика.
So, when the unedited interview was published on X on Friday morning, was it a bombshell? No, it was a snooze fest, running for 2 slow hours, with Carlson warning viewers that Putin's first answer was extremely long, as indeed it was. Asked off the top why he had invaded Ukraine, the Russian leader said, "Give me 30 seconds to explain the history." And 30 minutes later, as a puzzled Carlson looked on, he was still not finished.
Moreover, I would like to share a very interesting story with you.
Putin's history lesson began in 862 with Prince Rurik of Novgorod, reached Catherine the Great after about 10 minutes, and got to World War II around the 20-minute mark, with his translator's voice droning on.
Somewhere in the early 80s, I went on a road trip in a car from then Leningrad across the Soviet Union through Kiev. Made a stop in Kiev and then went to Western Ukraine.
But for those who stayed the course, he did eventually, and predictably, blame the West for threatening Russia's border and Ukraine for starting the fight.
It was they who started the war in 2014. Our goal is to stop this war, and we did not start this war in 2022. This is an attempt to stop it.
Meanwhile, the biggest questions went unasked and unanswered. Like, how does Putin justify killing and injuring 500,000 people? Did he have the man who tried to oust him killed? And is he guilty of war crimes, as the International Criminal Court alleges? And if you think it's impossible to ask such questions, former Fox News anchor Chris Wallace, who is now at CNN, dug up this clip last week to show it's not.
Why is it that so many of the people that oppose Vladimir Putin end up dead or close to it?
During the Cold War, gullible Westerners who spread Soviet propaganda were dismissed as useful idiots. But calling Tucker that is unfair to useful idiots.
And even those who once made a big deal of going on Carlson's show appear to agree, with Sky's Sherry Markson also happy to help her US security contacts stick in the knife.
Tucker Carlson is a willing agent of the Russian government and is spreading Russian government talking points. He's a tool of Putin's and is playing into Putin's hands.
So far, the Putin interview has almost 200 million views on X. But we doubt anyone who didn't have to made it to the end.
Something the Special Counsel said in his report is that one of the reasons you were not charged is because, in his description, you are a well-meaning elderly man with a poor memory.
I'm well-meaning, and I'm an elderly man, and I know what the hell I'm doing.
Hello, I'm Paul Barry. Welcome to Media Watch. And that was an elderly man with a poor memory, a.k.a. the US president, attempting to defend his mental faculties to sceptical journalists. Joe Biden had scrambled an emergency media conference to squash claims he had deliberately retained and disclosed classified documents, with the special prosecutor calling the president's memory hazy, fuzzy, faulty and poor. And armed with all that, journalists sprayed Biden with questions like these.
How bad is your memory, and can you continue as president?
My memory is so bad I let you speak. That's
your memory has gotten worse, Mr. President?
My memory is not good. My memory is fine.
And having defended his mental state as tickety-boo, the president shuffled off to the exit, only to turn on his heels to answer a question on Israel's war in Gaza, and to prove the doubters right by confusing Mexico with Egypt.
As you know, initially, the president of Mexico, Sisi, did not want to open up the gate to allow humanitarian material to get in. I talked to him. I convinced him to open the gate.
Whoops. And the media reaction to Biden's performance, as brutal as it was honest.
We just saw an unmitigated disaster play out before our very eyes.
Appalling. Absolutely appalling.
Mexico? I mean, politically, how do you explain that?
While the New York Post accused Jill Biden and the Democrats of elder abuse on Joe and called for him to step aside. All this, as Sky UK reminded viewers,
comes off the back of a week where he has forgotten the word Hamas, mixed up the French presidents, mixed up the German chancellors. It's really damning indeed.
And it's a disaster his political and media opponents won't let him forget. Only minutes before his latest memory slip-up, the 81-year-old president was asked...
For months when you were asked about your age, you would respond with the words, watch me. Many American people have been watching, and they have expressed concerns about your age.
That is your judgment. That is your judgment. That is not the judgment of the press.
We think he meant the public. But recent polls show that an overwhelming majority of Americans think he is too old to do the job, including 73% of Democrat voters. And last week's performance is not going to bring anyone back on side. And now to Andrew Bolt, with yet more evidence that this country is going to the dogs.
Things are now so bad that you can be arrested for carrying the Australian flag on Australia Day.
Yes, arrested for waving the flag on our National Day. Can you believe it? Well, Andrew Bolt certainly could. And he leapt on the story of the Victorian couple who were nabbed by the cops for being out and proud on Australia Day. Frank Strazdins and his wife Di Thorley watched the 21-gun salute at Melbourne's Shrine of Remembrance before heading into the city and stumbling upon the 30,000-strong Invasion Day protest. And it was what happened next that landed them a spot on their favourite show.
Was thousands of flags, Palestine flags, Aboriginal flags, chanting, singing, and within 2 minutes, a police officer approached me and said, "You are under arrest for inciting a riot." I said, "What? How?" He said, "With your flags on your head."
And there, taking pride of place in the studio, was the damning evidence.
These are the ones I had on my head.
The very ones you got there.
Yep. And my partner, Diane, was in the shop. She had them on her head as well. And we had them on all day.
According to Frank, the policeman then marched him off the street and put him under arrest.
And I said, "Di, I'm under arrest. I've been incited for starting a riot." And Di turned around and said, "What?"
After which Bolt doubled down with a damning column in the Herald Sun about Frank and Di's journey to the, quote, front line in a great culture war of the West.
Around the West, we see what mass immigration, multiculturalism and Western self-loathing is doing to national unity. But never have I heard of police threatening to arrest peaceful people for carrying their national flag on the National Day.
Nor have we. So, was that really what happened? Well, no, or not according to Victoria Police, whose media director called the claim nonsensical and told Media Watch bluntly,
"There was no arrest or threat of one, nor was the complainant told they could not wear an Australian flag."
Instead, say police, Frank was asked to move off the street for his own safety because he was
standing in the middle of tram tracks on Swanston Street in the direct route of a large protest group of more than 30,000 people.
Police say they can't provide any body cam or CCTV to show what happened next because none was recorded. But we do have the word of the acting police inspector, who says he escorted Frank off the street for his own personal safety and told Media Watch,
"At no time did I arrest this male or inform him he was under arrest. At no stage did I tell him to take his hat off, which had Australian flags on it."
Nor did the inspector accuse Frank of inciting a riot. He says he never uses such language. So, did Bolt get the cops' response before putting Frank's claim to air and then include it on the programme? Answer, no and no, because neither Bolt nor Sky nor the Herald Sun contacted Victoria Police to check what happened, which is why Victoria Police are so furious, stating,
"Media should not be publishing one-sided stories that damage the good reputation of our people."
So, did Bolt, Sky or the Herald Sun then say sorry for only giving one side of the story? No again. But at least the Herald Sun updated its online copy with an official denial, whereas Bolt poured scorn on the police, telling viewers that he knows who he believes, which is what we were referred to when we went to him for comment.
Oh, really? So he was moved on, but Frank somehow made up that bit about inciting a riot, arrest, made it all up.
Well, not exactly. More of a misunderstanding, most likely. But accusing the police of lying on such flimsy evidence really is a big call. And finally, to a brave man's fight to ban the bum and how it backfired in the media.
The beachside city, made famous by the bikini, is now the centre of a nationwide debate. A Gold Coast charity boss has asked the mayor to ban G-string swimwear in the streets, saying the skimpy trend should stay on the sand.
This is ridiculous. It's enough. We don't need it. I think it's demeaning to themselves, to be honest.
Charity founder Ian Grace is just a good bloke from Goldie who wanted to see fewer bums on the streets. So he wrote a letter to Mayor Tom Tate to say he'd had enough. And soon that was being highlighted in the Gold Coast Bulletin.
One young lady in particular was walking on the footpath on the main road and had the tiniest triangle in front and was as close to naked as anyone could be. You could see she was looking almost defiantly at people as they approached, almost daring them to say something. There's something very wrong here.
And soon that was front page news.
G-string ban, a bum steer.
With reporters sent to the beach for a cheeky poll to ask if bums should be banned.
It's 2024. Do what you want.
You know what? It's freedom. It's fine with us.
No, leave the G-strings. They're brilliant.
As long as you're covering up all the important bits.
Women should be allowed to wear anything they want at the beach.
Never mind, that's not where Ian wanted the cover-up. But next thing, he was on national TV to defend his would-be G-banger ban.
I see, a young lady on the beach, bare bum. Yep, great view. And then the same lady serving me coffee shortly.
Ian,
it just makes me feel uncomfortable, you know?
But why are you looking? Why are you looking then?
You can't help it if you're walking down the street and you've got a couple of young ladies with their bare bums right in front of you. And there's a difference between looking and, as some would say, oh, you're ogling. Well, no, I'm just looking. It's right there in front of me. I didn't ask for it, but it's there.
So, did anyone in the media reckon a ban would be a good idea? Afraid not. In fact, broadcaster Justin Smith was all G'd up to fight it.
And if this ban ever comes in, I think we all need to don a G-string. I'll put my hand up and do the same thing and march up and down the streets of the Gold Coast. Are you with me? Come on, are you with me?
And plenty were.
We're standing up to it. We are saying that, no, that's not right. We are in a day and age that we cannot be told, and we are about our freedom of choice. That's what this is about.
So, 7 days of bare cheeks plastered all over the media. Not quite the exposure that Ian was hoping for with his call for a cover-up. In fact, more like the bum's rush.
What do we want to free? The pig! When do we want to free it back?
And that's all from us for tonight. Don't forget Media Bites on Facebook, YouTube and Instagram. But for now, until next week, goodbye.